Good morning, Skeeter Nation, or at least some of Skeeter Nation. We are set to begin our TELPAS testing training for March 11th, and I hope you are all doing fabulous. So we will hit on some general information instructions for everybody, but I'm barely going to scratch the surface on that. It is included in the slides, but those will be the slides that we speak from and address questions on at our procedural training for all staff for March 11th on March 2nd. If I can get all of that out, we're going to be great. So anyway, your training verification form is due before 4:30 on March 2nd. We'll also do your procedural training as a staff, everyone in person on March 2nd. We've got a lot of ground to cover, so I'm hoping I can be as brief and concise at the same time as possible while covering all the materials. So please, please pay close attention for detail. Please read your materials and your manual because training never takes the place of reading the manual. Okay, just some general information. SAT 11th graders will be having SAT school day if they're not involved in UIL orchestra, because most likely we have UIL orchestra that day. There's still some finalized details coming, and things are ever evolving, so just be flexible. TELPAS, any current EB will, emergent bilingual student, will be on a TELPAS roster if they are in the 9th, 10th, or 12th grade. 11th grade is doing both their reading, writing, listening, and speaking tests this week. We do still have to test students even if they are on a denial or their parents have declined program services, or if they are homebound, or if happen to be a foreign exchange student and classified as EO. Excuse me. So make sure this is just giving you some background and how now you know who is a candidate to take TELPAS. All of our students will have been given an opportunity to take their listening and speaking TELPAS last week, this week, or one day next week. Our seniors finish with March 4th, and we're making those up constantly because we are on a tight window when you consider all EBs take two different parts of the TELPAS exam. Okay, some general things about testing day, and I'm trying to go somewhat in order of your verification form. I think it's really smart if you have it open at the same time as you're doing your training because you won't miss anything and you should be good to go. So on March 11th, everybody is reassigned. Everyone. Um, it, we're primarily using lower L for TELPAS. We may need some of A. Most likely that's where it ends as far as TELPAS roster rooms. SATs going in upper L. Kids could be engaged in a plethora of things in a non-testing room. They could be seniors in doing Texas College Bridge or Dallas Promise, or just senior things that we need to address, FAFSA, senior activities. But students could also be in a English 1 or 2 star prep. We might even have an Avid guided project. There are things that could be pullouts for several reasons. If I send you an opportunity to send me a list of students, you must furnish 32 students on your list, knowing that some of your students may not come, but it does help that you turn that around quickly so that if your kids are asked for another reason for another class, then first come is first priority. First one to turn in their sheet is the first one that gets priority. I don't offer that for a lot of things because we do not have that we don't we're not really we can't manage that as well. But there are some instances where we have some specialized pullouts, and I've already been consulting people about those. So if you haven't heard from me, just know we're going to operate as best we can and do the best we can. And we do hope on that day, on March 11th, we hope that we are able to go to 3A. We may be on a modified lunch schedule. We may be on a modified 3A and 4A schedule. Just be patient because we cannot move until SAT is finished and turned in, and TELPAS, if a student's still testing, if I had to relocate them, regardless, we cannot move until we have all materials accounted for. So just be flexible. We're all going to roll with it, and we're going to make sure that kids are taken care of and that we take care of each other. One more thing about that last slide. I know I just advanced, but if you have a room in L, A, LA, or lower C, please make sure your desks are test ready. I will come by and check during the school day on March 10th, and you will not be able to wave me off. You'll have to go ahead and make sure it's fixed right then if you haven't already done so. Okay. Attendance, we always take attendance in an online form on these flip days, schedule impact days where everybody has a different assignment, students and staff. So just remember, we'll talk about it again that day as to who does what. But the biggest thing I can say, if you are in a non-testing room, you highlight here. If the student is here, you type absent. Do not type here. Just highlight yellow. That lets us know they're here. Type absent if they're absent. There'll be a place if somebody comes in late and you need to make notes, we'll have a column for that as well. Please don't make our attendance ladies call you. We'll hit more on these things later, but that is super important. If you are an assist, you will take the attendance for testing rooms, testing room people, test administrators, testing proctors. You will take your attendance as directed on your roster SAT as our own instructions. Okay. Few more things about staffing. Again, we're trying to have staff assignments and attendance rosters to you by March 4th. Sometime during that day, I'm giving myself the grace to say that could mean all the way till 11:59 that I email you or make it available. But just know those are things we will hit more on this one. But I will say if you're in a testing room, the biggest thing I can say, whether it's SAT or TELPAS testing room, follow your checklist. Okay, just a little background on TELPAS. There are different levels of ratings, and there's a composite rating. So there's a rating for beginning, intermediate, advanced, and advanced high in each of the categories: listening, speaking, reading, writing. When the composite rating is advanced high and students pass their star that they're rostered for that year, then they are able to move from current EB to a monitor status. They're reclassified. And so TELPAS helps to measure the growth of a student from year to year. It's done annually. Here's some key features of each of those levels. This is just giving you a little bit of background and refresher for those of you that are more familiar. Results, they help set learning goals for our EB. They measure growth, and growth is so important. We're keeping parents and students informed. It helps us make informed decisions regarding instructional planning, programs, strategies, resources, and it also counts in accountability. And in fact, our growth with our EBs has been a strong component of our accountability at MHS. Y'all keep that good work with our kids. All right, TELPAS manual. It is linked here. Testing never takes the place of reading the manual. It is linked here. It is also attached to this email. Read your manual. In the manual, some things to truly sit in and highlight. I would say the pages at the beginning, probably 1 through 22-ish. It's a lot of familiar information that you've probably seen in our test security and confidentiality training. It talks about the accountability that is there for test irregularities. It talks about the expectations. It gives examples of what you can and cannot do. Please familiarize yourself or remind yourself, review that information. But what you really need to be focusing on is pages 23 through 31 as we prepare to test. You're going to be helping kids log in, which kids should be quite familiar with that because they will have just had the other portion of their TELPAS test taken over the 3 weeks prior to March 11th. So do just some reminders, like it is a no-brainer, but we can't take these things for granted. You're always maintaining test security and actively monitoring our test sessions, keeping test materials secure until they're returned back to the testing office. You are not allowed to duplicate, record, or electronically capture anything that has to do with the test. So even if you're having technical issues, please do not. Please, please, please do not. Get your phone out, take a screenshot, and send it to me. Don't take it at all, but sure don't send it to anybody. But either way, it is a testing irregularity. There is accountability and there are severe consequences. So please do not do that. Also report any suspected violation of test security to me. Try to manage interruptions as best you can. Even if it's a restroom break or illness, we are trying to make it super quiet, silent in the room that we can. Make sure you're completing the seating charts. You can use, for our seating chart purposes, you can make sure to put a number on your roster that corresponds with the seating chart, but everything needs to be filled out completely and totally. That includes session start and stop times. So when a student is finished, you do have to put that in. That is part of our manual, but all these things are on our checklist, and I'll show you how we implement those. But focus on pages 23 through 31 is background knowledge for how you are going to administer these tests on March 11th. The actual directions for the test begin on page 32. I will tell you that the directions indicate what should be read and when. I will say with TELPAS, you can change the level of language. You cannot change the content that is there. If you have questions about how you provide anything for kids, make sure you ask your assist first, and then they will get to us. Here's more guidance with directions. You are permitted to adjust the language. This means you can simplify the language. You just can't take away from the substance of the information in the directions. That means you can shorten it. If you are a fluent Spanish speaker and a student could use it, be given in Spanish, that's fine, but only the directions. Once they start on the test, we can only help them with directions. Nothing about the content of the test, nothing about how to answer the test. Just encourage them to use their scratch paper, encourage them to think things through, but please do all of that before they begin testing. But no matter what, you can be an encourager in the room. As TELPAS is administered, the way the format works is as students answer, based on their response, the test will gauge their following question as maybe a little higher in rigor or just to prove how high they are, or if they are struggling with that question, it may lower the difficulty. So that's how it comes up with a rating for them. It's based on their answers, and then it spirals up or down in difficulty level of English proficiency for the questions that follow. Okay, arrange for testing. So I just want to make sure and be clear on something. All testing rooms, and as I stated just previously, we need to make sure in lower C, all of A, all of L, your desks need to be facing the same direction. March 10th needs to happen. We have a lot of rooms to check. We need to make sure that they are ready to go. If you have content on your walls that could specifically help with SAT or TELPAS, it needs to be covered or removed. And we have to have you do that. It is your responsibility as the gatekeeper of your room, the caretaker of your room, but it is also the paired, and it stops with this person, the testing proctor, test administrator, but it has to be a shared responsibility. So make sure that you have that taken care of. There should not be headphones needed for the reading and writing portion of this test. And those participating in the listening speaking have already used the headphones. We will have a bag on hand just in case there is a random accommodation or instance where a student says, I really need the headphones. And those will be with the assists in the hallway. So assist, you'll make sure to come pick up manuals from me, as well as a bag of headphones for your area for that day. And then you'll turn them in at the end of the day or at the end of testing. The actual directions do begin on page 32, and it's stated in there. Let's look at the checklist. This is how we all stay on the same page. This is going to continue to answer some of the questions on our verification form. All right. So you can pick up your materials as early as 7:45. They have to be out of there by 8:05. And we're asking that everybody is in their assigned spot by 8:05 if humanly possible. We know that we cannot control 635. We know that we cannot control Highway 80 or any of the thoroughfares to our good old Beltline and East Davis intersection, but we're going to do the best we can. And as far as it depends on us, we're going to try to be where we're supposed to be at 8:05. Make sure you check your room thoroughly, like we talked about. It ends with the testing proctor. Assist will make sure to help. They will also be a person that comes in and looks. If anything's off, we're going to have to fix it before we start testing. Once you get in there, tape your do not disturb sign and room log to the door. If you're assigned to the room, you're the TA, you're the testing administrator. You can also put proctor. Either one of those works for me when you put that on the room log. You can go ahead and place student tickets at each desk, and you can complete their seating chart. You can, again, use numbers. I would go ahead and number the tickets. It'll make it easier on you, and then you can tell them which seat they should go to because you already have it on your seating chart, and you can just tell them, you're in seat 1, you're in seat whatever. Make sure that the students verifies that that is their ticket. You can also go ahead and put the pencils on the desk. I mean, you can. I would probably wait until you do scratch paper, but it is possible to have their ticket and a pencil on the desk. Kids cannot take anything to their desk. So as they come in, we all know that school policy is electronic devices cannot be out. So would you just remind them to turn off all the things that are in their backpacks? If they happen to keep things in their pockets, they're going to need to go ahead and turn those in, and you put it on a Post-it. It's turned off. You give it back to them. They put it away, because we're not seeking to have a phone collection, but they cannot have it on their person. Everything has to be put at the front or side of the room in an area that is away from the desks. If your desks aren't spaced apart where anybody can walk in between them, then we need to make those adjustments as well. If you need help with any of that, contact your assist first. Then they will get to us if they can't handle what is going on there, or if they need additional assistance. We will be there to help. Remember, students also think that their Chromebook is their own personal desk and backpack. So they shove all kinds of things in the cases or just inside the Chromebook in general. Those items also need to be put with backpacks and belongings away from the student testing area somewhere in the room. Pick a spot, and that's where everything needs to go. And they will not get those things back until all testing material from your room has been taken to the testing office. They shouldn't be on their Chromebook either after they submit. Just a side note, just a reminder. All these things are in your checklist. Let's make sure that we keep going. Okay, if a student doesn't have a Chromebook, manage that with your assist. You have a Chromebook checkout for testing. When we are out of computers, we are out. When we are out of computers, we are out. Priority is going to be given to SAT, then to TELPAS, because it's easier to make up TELPAS than it is SAT. But priority is given to them. But when we're out, and those students will be escorted to a non-testing area. Hopefully that won't occur. All right, once the tardy bell rings, you're ready to start. When you have enough people and you've got everybody's Chromebooks ready to go, start. You can always start a kid late. You just have to notate their different start time. That's not a big deal. Make sure you're making the correct notations. Make sure that you're going through your checklist. Make sure that you're accounting for things, the start time on your rosters, and I believe also on your seating chart. It's also on your room log. Write those things as you go so that when we're ready to turn in after students have submitted everything, it will not be as tedious of a task because you will have taken care of it as you actively monitor throughout the time. So Chromebooks are ready, kids are ready. You've had them all restart their Chromebook. That's super important. When they sit down, you tell them to restart their Chromebook. Do not sign in, go to secure test browser. They are familiar with the process. I promise they are, but they cannot be in any other mode other than secure test browser and not signed in. So it does help them to go ahead and restart because it cleans everything up. All right. Once again, have them confirm that that is their ticket, that that is them, that that is their date of birth. Then read the electronic policy. Be an encourager. Get started reading the pages in the manual. It is page 32. When you're ready for students to sign in, that is when you put the session ID on the board. When it says to on the checklist, but really it's when it says to in your directions in the manual. Do not have that session ID on the board prior to that time. All right. You keep following along, doing what you need to do, following your checklist, documenting the things you need to document. At 10 o'clock, your assists are going to start coming by. They may come by before then, but they're going to look at your attendance on your rosters and they will mark it on the shared sheet. They know that it is, they are highlighting here, just yellow, no words, and marking absent, typing it in that column if they are absent. We need to make sure that it is, you can take it earlier than 10. They can come and take it earlier than 10, but they're going to check it again at 10 and make sure it's correct. And our attendance ladies do not need to call or text anyone because everybody needs to be doing that. Actively monitoring. Remember, actively monitoring is not you working on something. It is not you being on your phone because our phones don't need to be out really at all either. Use your assist. If you have issues, use your assist. Also, that session ID, I'm just going to backtrack real fast. It's going to be on an orange paper. It's going to be very evident that that's what it is, but remember to put it on the board when you need to. And then as students are finishing, you needed to tell them this at the beginning. I apologize, but make sure to tell them when they're finished, they raise their hand, you help them to submit. They don't submit on their own. If they submit on their own and they raise their hand and tell you they're finished, make them sign in again and show you that it says inactive on the purple TELPAS banner. That's how we know that they've already submitted. All right, students are not allowed to work on anything. Don't give them back anything. We obviously don't give them back electronic devices. I need to update that in our little in our checklist here. Until the bucket has been returned, they do not get anything back of their personal belongings. It will just cause disruption in the room and it breaks security. It breaks the testing mode. It's not something we need to do. Lunch instructions. If there's a lunch schedule, we will share it with your assist. We're hoping to go to 3A. We're hoping it may just be on a modified schedule, but that's where we're going. Remember, collect the test tickets and scratch paper, which you give them when they start testing. Don't give that a prior to testing. Everything is here in their checklist. It keeps us accountable. It keeps us operating on the same page. It should answer all your questions between the manual, the content of the slides, and your checklist. If not, shoot me an email. You can also, this week, ask Erin Van Sickle or Katie Fleener. I'm out with a family situation this week, and I may pop in, but you'll see me at some point. This is not about me. I just want to get this training done so we can get it to y'all and everybody can be prepared. Okay. When you have got all these things accounted for and everybody in your room is finished or your relocated kids have been taken away, then you bring your materials to the testing office, but make sure to follow how they should be. Make sure your seating chart is completed. Make sure your roster has times on it. The finish times, the start times, super, super important. Okay. There's a couple things I just want to make sure. I'm just going to go through real quick. You could have up to 30 people in your room because we must maintain one teacher for every 30 students. We're planning for 25 per room. You may have less, but that's what we're planning for. Also, the student list, the only one that you can post is the one that's in order by ID, and it will say that it's shareable when I put it out. Remember, students should restart their computers once they're seated. You can have a pencil and a ticket on their desk prior to their arrival. I would personally only put their ticket. We're always following the checklist. I'm trying to hit your verification form and just make sure it's all there. Remember, students can't have things stuffed in their stuffed in their Chromebook, and it can't even be underneath their desk. All of their personal belongings have to be put aside. Session code does not go on the board till it's indicated in your manual and in the checklist. As students finish, you put their finish time in the roster. And if you have questions, let me know. This concludes our training for TELPAS for March 11th. Make sure that you submit your Google form, and that is due before 4:30 on March 2nd this week. Having it done this week would be really favorable, and I would really appreciate it. Whenever you're listening to this, I hope life is good and that you're having a great day. See you soon.